Okay, hello everyone. So the background has dried a bit. I've put out some crimson along with the blue and the brown and the yellow ochre. And I got myself some masking tape in order to mask off. I'm not going to mask anything off yet actually. What I want to do first is to put down the darks. So using the blue and brown mixed together. You see it there, the ultramarine blue and the burnt umber, I think it was. Either Van Dyke brown or burnt umber. Depending on the make, either one of those will work. And now I'm just putting down the darks with my eyes half closed. I'm recognizing where I see the darker bits of the landscape to be. And it is significantly dark in the background here in relation to the bright that's on the water. So unlike the other day when I was talking about the haze of the distant hills and everything, maybe this is a bit more contrast, that the landscape is contrasting more with the bright of the sky above and the bright of the water below. I'm conscious of the proportions of the darks in the landscape as well and how far over that dark area comes in relation to the rest. So I'm starting to notice still at this early stage the shape of the different bits of the different tones in the landscape and the shapes that they have. So that's what this kind of adjusting is about at the moment, and noticing too the tonal variations in the landscape, in the different parts of the landscape. Knowing as well that I can always adjust the edge with the next colour that goes on, you know, for the sky or whatever colours are coming next, will be able to adjust edges there. I think this field is lighter than the one behind, and it's a little bit greener actually. I'll put even a touch of yellow ochre into the blue in order to give that just a hint of a greeny grey shade. That hill there. And I'm cross-hatching and, you know, watching as well that I don't get too involved in any part of it really at this stage. I want to keep quite free and open about it all. Yeah, it's just recognizing proportion. You know, I'm going for, I think maybe I'm going to make the sky a little smaller, or maybe the foreground will be a little smaller, whatever it is, to allow for a little bit more focus on the land. I think it comes right over close to the edge, that dark triangle there. I'm out in the garden studio now and it's raining mad outside. It's quite nice sitting by the door here. I'm wrapped in my blanket. So there's two different triangles. There's one that's darker than, well, there's a kind of a, what would you say, a division between the two dark triangles back here. And both of them are dark on the bottom left. My brush was getting wetter because it had some water trapped in the middle bit, so I'm drying it off because I don't want it to be too wet when I'm doing this part. I want to be able to explain the tones fairly well without it being washed off by the wettish liquid, the wet brush. Okay, so yeah, this is just early stages, as I say, establishing something of the landscape, but really keenly noticing what's happening there too, you know, early stages, but not being flippant or anything. Noticing the lovely shape of things between parts, like there's a lovely shape of green grass there in fields through the conifers that are coming down to the edge of the water, and then just to the left of that dark hillside is where there's a little farm building that's roof is catching the light venting. So it's helpful to notice these things as I'm painting in the trees elsewhere. I'm going to put some yellow out because I do think it needs to have some green in it. Even although they're in the distance, I think it's worth putting some yellow out there so that we can have a nice green hint to the trees. So this is lemon yellow, I think. I don't think it matters so much which yellow I use at the moment, because it's just to give it a hint, as I say, of green. Okay, so let's see how it looks now. Trying to find the position of things in relationship to each other, even at this stage, is a helpful thing to do. Knowing that we can make adjustments to capture more fully the character of the parts in painting later. So just working best I can with what I've got now. And there's a hill back here that explains the dark of the conifers, and it's bright-ish. Not as bright at all as the water or the sky, but it's just a bit lighter than the dominant dark of the hillside, of the trees there. And it might be the same or a similar colour that's here, just a little bit darker in those deciduous trees, the tops of them, that are kind of outlining the other side of those conifers. And just deepen the tone of the conifers there again, a small bit. Okay, and then there's a kind of a maroon. I'm going to put some red into that, because as I move over this way, I feel like it's becoming a bit, as I say, kind of maroon coloured. The hillside as it meets beside the green there, and then as it comes across, it gets, it's kind of a dull, dark, browny grey maroon, but it has got a touch of warmth to it. So I'm making this hill behind where those farms will be, those farm buildings or houses, making that a little bit kind of purpley reddish blue in tone. I'm putting a bit more ultramarine into it as it reaches up to meet the sky. And then that same dark colour is more clearly dark as it hides behind this hill on the left that's in front of it. Here it's more clearly dark again. Just kind of tending to the edges a bit now. I wonder what next. Yeah, probably put a bit of that. Now that this has dried a little bit more, I can deepen the tone again there where the water lifted it off earlier. Just using a thicker consistency, slightly thicker consistency of brown and blue. I still don't want it to be thick paint, I just want it to be clear enough, clear enough that it's dark. And then this over here can be deeper in tone too. Now bring it across a little bit more, because it's a long thin triangle, that second hill. And I can explain the division between the two hills later on a bit more if I need to. Right, what's happening over here? I think below the yellow ochre there's some slightly darker again where it enters the water, or appears to enter the water. And then there'll be some lighter greens, not hugely lighter, but as I maybe do the fields directly behind here, it's green but not bright green, with some ultramarine blue mixed with lemon yellow. Green but not bright green, and then the one behind it is bright green. So the green but not bright green one I'm doing first here, and I think it may also feature not really exactly that, but something like it is here. And here as well. Okay. And I'm aware that the edge of the land where it meets the sky could have some adjustments to it, but we'll do that when we're doing the sky. It's Maisie over there beside me. I bought her blanket, so she's happy now to be lying down. She wasn't knowing what to do with herself earlier, walking around me. But she's got her spot now, so she's resting. And I'd say we won't be heading for a walk now for a while because of the rain. It's fairly heavy at the moment, and also I want to get this done, but as soon as this is finished, even if it is raining, I'm going to take her for a wander because it'll be time, you know, for her to have some exercise again. Okay, so you might think I'm manipulating this quite a bit, and I am enjoying it. Like, it's kind of fine tuning, I suppose. If I feel like this is a significant part of it, and it'd be helpful to get this tonally as I want it before going into too much detail elsewhere. And speaking of elsewhere, this dark blue that was in the trees is kind of featuring here a little bit. So I'm going to do the darks that I see in the water. Very different mark. It's long and sleek and thin. And it'll be over here as well. It's almost as though it extends all the way across. And it feels to me like it's important that it be not wavy but quite horizontal, this distant linear tone in the water. Because it was a day that was strikingly calm, I think, on the water, really. Okay, I could do with washing that brush and letting it be a more bluish colour for that water, I think. Just going to let it sit up on the lip a little bit so I can see it a bit more clearly. And then painting. Yeah, it's almost like a purpley blue when it comes to the water, isn't it? There's a little bit more of that going on, so I see what it's like. Yeah, maybe purpley blue, but also still some brown to knock the colour out of it. Okay, trying to manoeuvre myself so I can get a good purchase on what I'm doing, you know. I think I might have set myself up so that I'm too far away from it on the table. Well, no, it's alright. No harm to be at a distance a bit from it anyway. The other thing I don't have now that could be useful is kitchen paper. I've got some old tea towels that I'm using instead though, so I'm not too badly off. Right, I'm spreading this out now just as a initial layer anyway. It does get a bit more muted over to the left there. It's not blue really there. It's more Payne's grey kind of a feeling to it, so more brown into the mix I'd say is appropriate here. And there's some dark lines now that would be very, very dark, so I'm using the blue-brown mix there too. And later on we can do our lighter lines that should really crispen things up once I've got the masking tape to do that. I like an edge, you know. I know some people don't. I heard another artist saying that he hates when people make edges around things, you know, because there's no edges in reality really. But actually I love the light, the crispness of light, the bright light falling on the water, and I want to really show that off with the contrast of the dark, to accentuate the light with the contrast of the dark, and the crisp edge to me is a helpful thing for that. Now I'm doing lots of mark making here with this is a, I think, 3/4 inch brush, or it might even be 1 inch, do you think? No, 3/4. And it's quite a pleasing thing, you know, just to, I'm kind of pulling it down. Somehow I want to do this to explain the ripples on the water maybe, or just to dry out the paint. I don't know exactly why I'm doing it. But the next thing I'm going to do is I'll move up a little bit higher, because I think the area of brightness is quite narrow at the top of the water, so I'll lift up the dark a little bit more to meet where the area of light will be, knowing that I'll still have room for some land down here. And I think in a way the focal point is almost the area here that I'll be painting in some detail really later on, or you know, highlighting the brightness of the house maybe, and the water on the way up to it, and the little peninsula of green that's over here too. Just doing the shadow beneath it for now. And the water swirls and swishes around there, so there's interesting kind of tones happening. It's not that it's all suddenly going to be dark along here. There's some areas that'll be brighter than others. Might be even helpful to do this. The old faithful handprint to lift off some of the thickness of the water. I realised that I said I would stop every 15 minutes and I don't think I have at all. Well, I don't know how long it's gone. How long is it for now? Let's see. I can't really see here on my phone now. I'm just going to let it run. I can always half the video if it's too much later. Okay. Something kind of nice, isn't there, about a handprint? And I think now, because of the yellow, ochre and red underneath, I think I'll need to use some white to really clearly establish the brightness of that water in the way that it's kind of purpley, light grey. You know, it's not going to happen just by painting blue on top. And so I will do that at some point, but I think first, now half closing my eyes again, the land here is darker than the water generally at the front, but there is an edge where there's brightness along bright and dark contrast of stones at the edge that's kind of exciting. So I think what I'll do is use the stencil, will I? No, what I'm first going to do is put on something dark here, pretty dark, just the brown really, a little bit of blue in it, but mostly it's brown, so that what I can do with the stencil is maybe or even maybe just splash on some water and wipe it away, you know, that effect that we can get, so that the foil being dark underneath I think is helpful. I see that there's patches of green as well though that I want to not forget about, so I'm going to paint some of those in as well in this first kind of underpainting for the stones. But I do want it generally to be a dark foil for whatever stenciling or splashing I do after. And I suppose what I could first start with is some splashing. So I've got my brushes in the water here, and I'll just flick some droplets on. Oh, I maybe put on more than I wanted to there now. And actually this is a good time for me to stop for a minute, because I'm going to get the hair dryer. And there's actually one bit that's really, there's a lot of water on there and it's just going to lift it all off. So I'll take off the strength of that. I'll take off most of the water there, and I'm going to put on some more paint. But what I was going to say is I'll have a little break, because I'm going to go in and get the hairdryer to dry it, so that because I think I'd be a long time waiting for those droplets to dry otherwise. Okay, so here it is so far now. I'll just show you what's happened so far. That's it. So we've got something to describe the land, a bit of variation in tone and colour in the land. I've left a space really for the brightness on the water, at the top of the water. And then I've got something to describe the bluish tones in the water. That'll be adjusted as we go on. And then there's the bit of the foreground here, the triangle on the right, the bottom right. I've just put some dark paint on there, along with some green, to describe the underneath the texture, a pattern of stones that I'm going to put on. And the stones, I'm hoping, will be explained by these little droplets when I wipe them away, and also by using some of these stencils that I got from Karen, thanks Karen, that I can, you know, print over the top to get a pattern there. Okay, so I'll see you soon. Bye.